Lost media gets talked about a lot these days, but some pieces get talked about more than others. While sometimes this is simply because the piece of lost media is more obscure, what about the pieces we don't talk about because we're embarrassed to talk about them with others? Welcome to a special all-spicy edition of lesser-known lost media.
Welcome back, Chimera Crew, to another episode of Lesser Known Lost Media. And in fact, this is a very special episode of Lesser Known Lost Media. About a month ago, longtime viewer, Bergman864, responded to a previous to volume 62 with number 69 should be all spicy media, and then a fire emoji. And TuneMan6987 responded to his comment with facts. And I thought, that's a pretty good idea. I mentioned on the channel that I was going to do this, and about 5 days ago from the time of recording, viewer Charlie Weevil responded with, my prediction is that episode 69 will be the one that pushes you over 1K. Great video as always. Well, here's hoping that it does. At the time of recording, we're pretty close to 1,000, so hopefully all of you are just a little bit perverted, and this is what gets you to finally subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Just a heads up, due to the nature of the pieces talked about in this video, there are going to be some instances of censoring, both in images and possibly language, depending on how raunchy the language gets. While this censorship will not affect the overall quality of the video, if you would like to see the uncensored version, that can be found over on my Patreon, either by joining any paid tier or by just simply purchasing the video, though it actually is cheaper to simply join the $1 tier because Patreon won't let me charge anything less than $3 for a purchasable post. I don't understand why. Again, it's not really the thing I typically do, but just because of the nature of this video, I don't want it to be a pay-to-view video, but I do have to censor the free version to meet with YouTube standards. If you are new to the channel, how this typically works is that I cover 5 pieces of lost media that you just don't hear about on the internet as much as you do some of the more famous pieces like Hinogata or Saki Sanabashi. We typically start with 4 family-friendly, safe-for-work pieces and then move into a 5th final spicy piece. But because today is our 69th episode, all 5 instances today are going to be spicy instances. I will still be taking a brief ad break between the 4th and 5th pieces, but please note that none of these are safe for work. Alright, all that being said, let's get started. Starting off our list is The Weird Ones, Lost Pat Boyette sexploitation film from 1962. The Weird Ones is a low-budget 1962 sexploitation film directed, written, and produced by Pat Boyette. The 76-minute black and white film was shot in San Antonio, Texas, and it was screened for the first time in February of 1962. The film is reportedly about a couple of press agents, acted by Mike Braden and Rudy Duran, specialized in promoting naked women, who team up to stop the Astronaut, a space alien devoted to the torture and murder of young ladies. In order to lead Astronaut into a trap, the protagonists use an extraterrestrial Cosmo Cutie as bait, this character serving as a pretext for several softcore erotica scenes. Unfortunately for anyone who was hoping to get their rocks off to the scenes of this supposed Cosmo Cutie, all negatives related promotional materials and copies of The Weird Ones were, according to Boyette himself, destroyed in a garage fire, with only the theatrical poster surviving. Whether or not another copy is held by the theatrical distributor is open to conjecture, as Crescent International Pictures has shown no signs of life since 1969, with just a few sexploitation films of questionable quality under their belt. Again, lost films are always interesting, but especially in a spicy context, this one, it's kind of like on the modern day internet, back there, I'm sure there's many a person out there who came upon a video back in the day never thought to save it, and then, the site it was on went down and you've never found it again, and this just kind of reminds me of that. So, but again, lost media, lost films are always interesting, and certainly lost sexy films are especially interesting. And I mean, ever since the days of 1950s sci-fi films, who doesn't love seeing an alien woman get seduced, right? And unless another copy of this film magically appears, we're not going to get to see this one. Coming up next, we have Sex Station 7, a lost Somavision adult first-person shooter from 2007. Sex Station 7 is an adult first-person shooter developed by Somavision in 2007. Somavision Digital Games was founded in 1998 and was a team for specializing in the development of interactive sex games and adult curious entertainment. The company also had the domain sexyshooter.com, on which it displayed their specific little-known releases and other adult games that have been in their development. Sex Station 7 was developed around 2007 by a small team of game developers who decided to create the world's first shooter for an adult audience. Some members have even worked on high-profile games such as DreamWorks Interactive and EA games. All 6 episodes were released the 1st of March with a special game price of $19.95 on the DVD box. So what was the quote-unquote plot of this game? Well, you are Special Agent Dylan Owens of the Genetic Development Ministry. A situation has developed in one of the department's most secret research locations, Station 7. You have been called upon to investigate why contact has been lost with Station 7 and determine the status of the top-secret alpha female engineering program that was conducted there. If successful, you will be rewarded with a never-ending wave of cyber babe whores to serve you. But if you fail, it could mean a lifetime of shameful masturbation staring at pictures of your grandmother naked. Wow, what a synopsis. I bet that synopsis really made you want to go pay that $19.95 so you can download and play this ASAP. Well, unfortunately, guys, none of the 6 episodes have appeared online. At the moment, the game is extremely rare, and it is unclear whether the game can be found in some private collector's hands. There are a few screenshots on the web, but that's really all we have right now. But yeah, as you can maybe see or maybe not see, depending on which version you're watching of this video, this just appears to be a, more or less simply put, it is a first-person shooter, pretty standard graphics for the time period. It just so happens to feature some, well, blocky nudity in it, and some potentially and hardcore cutscenes than you would in your average shooter. Ultimately, this just seems like a product of its time, and it's not, it might have been the first, but it's certainly not the last one of these games to come out just to try and sell, a mediocre game off of the titillating nature of it, though, it did seem to be the first to want to do so in a first-person shooter, which is notable and is interesting, but ultimately, guys, I think more than anything, this one should be found for archival purposes, as the game itself probably sucks. Though it is nice to hear that some of the developers went on to bigger and better things, because, at least, put your effort in. This was definitely a passion project, so to speak, so I'm glad it worked out for him in the end. Next up, guys, we've got Tales from the Land of Genitalia, a lost Bob Jacques animated short based on a Robert Crumb comic strip from the 1970s. Tales from the Land of Genitalia is a short animated by Ren and Stimpy animator Bob Jacques, which is based off the Robert Crumb 1969 comic strip of the same name. It was shown at Sheridan College somewhere in the 1970s and was never seen again. What's the premise of this? Well, it's a short about a penis with arms and legs playing with itself. I promised you guys spicy, and I aim to deliver. As to the original screening, Bob Jacques regularly screened cartoons from the Golden Age during lunch breaks at Sheridan, and people would come in and watch, including his friend and future Ren and Stimpy creator, John Kricfalusi. Kricfalusi saw the short in question and immediately thought he could animate it. Eventually, Jacques and Kricfalusi became good friends due to their interest in Golden Age cartoons. So if you are watching the censored version here on YouTube, I'm going to give you a little bit, there is a little bit of difference between the comic strip in question and what the short apparently was. anthropomorphic ding-dongs in the comic strip don't have arms and in fact are just one of them is attempting to bury his head in the sand in question not being sand but rather a jelly hole. But yeah, so apparently if you would like to see a short cartoon of an anthropomorphic dingle-dangle playing with itself with its own arms, well, you're a little bit out of luck because this thing hasn't been seen since the 70s. Not really much to go on here, I just think it's interesting because of the people involved in its creation, as Ren and Stimpy itself is a very famous cartoon, so this lost little piece of smut has a somewhat prestigious pedigree. Fourth on our list is Night Stud, or perhaps pronounced Night Studdy. I don't know, the capitalization's weird on this one, but it's a partially found adult simulation PC game from 2003. Night Studdy is a 2003 adult simulation PC shareware game released by Digital Universal Studio. It is the first game in the Night Studdy series also published by the same company, the other games being Night Study 2, Night Study 3, and Night Studette. The game was only available to download on the company's website. Like other shareware games, players were offered a free demo of the game with a few minutes of gameplay. The player had to pay the company for the full game. In this game, the player takes control of an unseen male character with the main objective of having sex with as many women as he can find as possible. The player has to navigate a map to move to several places like pubs and joints. At the places, the player has to talk to a woman and invite her to the character's house, where the player will perform sexual intercourse with the woman. The player is also given various options before sexual intercourse, like giving the woman a drug or using condoms. At the end of the intercourse, depending on the player's performance and how pleased the woman is, the player is given payment, which can be spent on the gym and surgery to improve charm and sexual performance. The graphics are mostly photographic images, and most are inanimate except for the pop-up images depicting the sexual acts that appear during sexual intercourse. The game is now no longer available for download, although the rest of the series is still available. All that remains of the game are some screenshots from the official website, as well as the demo version of Night Studdy. It sounds like what we ultimately had here was an early 2000s gigolo simulator. Again, most of the images that are on the screen right now are likely mostly pixelated, as the images that are available for this are quite graphic. But again, this one just kind of strikes me as a product for people who want their porn to be a little bit more interactive, but they can't actually go out and get laid themselves. This, I believe, was probably before the idea of VR porn was widely available, so it was kind of like, the next best thing when you can't actually go out and do this yourself. A novel concept for the time, for sure. Though the thing about this, and also back to Sex Station 7, that is very interesting to me is that, that back in the early 2000s, honestly, not that long ago, the idea of nudity in a game was such an out there concept that, a game would feature lots of nudity, that they were, they could build an entire premise of a kind of crappy little game around it. When nowadays, nudity is fairly common in games. Whether you're playing some little indie game or one of the big developer games, even AAA games like Grand Theft Auto, the Saints Row series, Baldur's Gate 3, all can feature quite a bit of nudity, so nudity is not exactly uncommon in video games anymore, but there was a time where the fact that a game featured nudity could be its entire selling point. But if you want to play this one, well, hopefully the demo's good enough, because otherwise, you're out of luck. Alright guys, even though they're all spicy today, I'm still going to take a brief ad break here, and you know what, we're going to talk about my spicy miniatures, because spicy is the theme today. I started this channel as a way to pitch my miniatures business that I have over on eBay and Mercari, Chimera Miniatures, where one of the things I do is I do make minis that are pieced together from multiple minis. That's where the company gets its name, Chimera Miniatures. But, when I first started making these minis, that was what I started out doing. That was the only thing I did. And, business was not taking off very quickly. And there just so happened to be a piece, I believe it was cobbled together from a couple different pieces boxes of Reaper miniatures that did feature a topless female. And, the thing is that piece sold lightning fast. And that reminded me of back in the day when I first started collecting HeroClix. There was somebody on eBay who at the time was repainting them to be various degrees of naked. And I thought, I wonder if there's still a market for that, as that creator had long since left eBay. I did go searching for his work, could not find it at the time, but I was like, I wonder if I could do that. I wonder if there's a market for it. So I started repainting various HeroClix superhero characters, painting them to be featuring less or in some cases no clothing, and they started selling. They started selling quite fast. Bell business has diminished in the past couple years. There was a time where I was selling quite a few of them every month. And honestly, it still is a large portion of my business. Sales overall are down, but the percentage of my sales that are these spicy miniatures has remained consistent in the grand scheme of my business. So, if you'd like to potentially add some of these to your collection, I do offer a multitude of different characters. They are available on eBay and Mercari, and most of them right now, as I am trying to clear out older inventory, are discounted starting as low as $5. In fact, the majority of them start at $5. Whether you want to break these pieces out on the HeroClix table or you just want them for your own personal enjoyment, hey, whatever floats your boat, guys, and the packaging is always discreet. I don't advertise what I'm sending you in the mail. It's a nondescript cardboard box. But anyway, guys, if you want to help the channel out, of course, always watch, comment, like, and subscribe. Hopefully this is the episode that gets us to 1,000 subscribers if we're not there already. But also, if you want to help the channel monetarily, you can join the Patreon or become a YouTube member. But it's always appreciated if you go buy a mini. With all that being said, guys, let's get to the piece that, while I can't necessarily say it's the best, I certainly have saved it for last. Are you a fan of anthropomorphic cats and Taylor Swift's butthole? Because if so, then you might be one of the people desperately searching for Cats, the lost unreleased cut of the musical film from 2019, also dubbed the Butthole Cut. Cats is a 2019 live-action musical film adapted from the Broadway show of the same name. The film is infamous for its heavy use of CGI to transform the actors into uncanny valley human-cat hybrids, but even more infamous is the existence of a version of the film where the cats had anuses, dubbed the Butthole Cut. So, a little backstory on this one. On March 17th of 2020, Twitter user Jackwaz posted a tweet where he claimed to be in touch with one of the video effects artists for the film, and they shared a snippet of what work on the movie was like, and it read, "A VFX producer friend of a friend was hired in November to finish some of the 400 effect shots in the Cats movie. His entire job was to remove CGI buttholes that had been inserted a few months before, which means that, somewhere out there, there exists a butthole cut of Cats." Now, the idea of this existing is very interesting for a main reason being that, while it was considered to be a terrible film, Cats had an all-star studded cast. I mean, you had Judi Dench, Idris Elba, Jennifer Hudson, Robbie Fairchild, Rebel Wilson, James Corden, Jason Derulo, Ian McKellen, even Taylor Swift featured heavily in the movie. And while I cannot speak for all of them, I think more than a few of these people would object to having their character feature a CGI'd butthole. Now, I know all you Swiftie furries out there are just drooling at the thought of Taylor Swift showing some hole, but there is some debate as to whether or not this is actually a real thing or not. So what do we know about this, whether or not this actually exists? Well, on March 19th of 2020, author Johanna Desta of Vanity Fair published an article called "We Spent 24 Hours Searching for the Elusive Butthole Cut of Cats." Wow, that's definitely a clickbait right there. Or purchase bait? I don't know. Was this in the magazine or was this on a website? Who cares? In the article, she goes into detail about her research into the legitimacy of the butthole version of the film. Reaching out to Jack Waz, he mentions having gotten the information from the friend around New Year's, with said friend refusing to comment in the article. Spokespeople for both Universal and Film Mill were contacted as well, both stating they couldn't comment on the cuts existent due to NDAs they'd signed. Now, when NDAs start getting mentioned, it kind of adds some legitimacy to the fact that this could be out there. Well, maybe not, because, the day before on the 18th, Twitter user Ben Meckler posted a tweet showing a screenshot of an email sent to them by a video effects artist on cats that wished to stay anonymous, and this email reads as follows. There were never shots of cats with buttholes, or at least by design. None that I saw anyway. However, there were a dozen or so shots where the skin and the fur sim was groomed or just folded in a way that really looked like very furry lady genitals and buttholes by accident. The task, as typical with heavy CG shows, fell on 2D to paint out the offending articles, where it was brought up and spotted. Daily reviews were constant awkward discussions of people plucking up the courage to point out things like, "Does that look like a fanny to you?" Despite this, demand for the original version of the footage was still strong, with some people believing this was merely a cover-up story. Robbie Fairchild, the actor for Monkus Trap in the film, claims to have seen this cut of the movie. In an interview with Page 6, he stated, "It was my favorite thing in the world. They gave me 8 nipples. They were like radioactive pink." Now, I saved this one for last, guys, because of all the ones featured here today. I think it honestly is the most interesting simply out of the fact that, one, as with any good piece of lost media, there is an air of mystery about it. Like, was there purposely a butthole cut that was nixed at the last minute? Was it simply due to some unintentional CGI that they had to edit? One way or the other, it does sound like at some point there looked to be a nearly pornographic content in the Cats movie, and that is kind of funny. And I definitely, considering the all-star cast, I can see why people would want this version. It's still a little weird to me because at the end of the day, these are anthropomorphic cats that people are apparently desperate to see buttholes, vaginas, nipples, whatever on, and I don't know, no kink shame, but no kink same. And I can definitely see there being a niche group of people that would love to see Taylor Swift as a quote-unquote crazy cat lady, but like in a more literal sense than has been claimed by certain political figures of late. But hey, if you're really into the idea of naked cat girls, be sure to check out my eBay and Mercari, or message me on my email. There are a couple of pieces that I could probably make for you, a couple of characters. Again, a lot of you probably haven't seen a previous video on the channel because it is a member exclusive, and I honestly don't have all that many members and patrons at the moment, but it was simply entitled, "It's okay to be a perv, just don't be weird about it." And that's the video, guys. I want to thank you so much for joining me on today's video where we covered some of the slightly more perverted pieces. We're all pervs in one way or the other. Everybody's got a preference. Everybody's got something that gets their rocks off or floats their scrot. And for some people, that's lost media. And I hope you found some of these pieces to be slightly more titillating than the average fare here on Chimera Miniatures. Again, thank you so much for being with the channel. We've come a long way in a very short amount of time, and that is all thanks to you, the viewers. Again, if you want to see the unedited, unblurred version of this video, it is available to all paid tiers over on Patreon, or available for a single one-time purchase download. Again, it is actually cheaper to just join the $1 tier a month, but up to you in that aspect. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Again, we're hoping that this is the video that finally puts us at over 1,000 subscribers. Please consider becoming a patron or channel member, and be sure to check out the links over on eBay and Mercari and see if there's a mini that you would like to add to your collection. Also, feel free to reach out to me via the email, also in the links, because I am willing to do custom commissions. Be sure to tune in next week for our 70th episode. I will be doing a miniature giveaway to celebrate how many of these things we've done. It's kind of nuts to me still. Also, I want to make sure to give a big shout out to my #1 longest time running member of the Beta Club over on Patreon, J-Dog. J-Dog, thank you so much for your continued support. It does mean the most, and we are slowly gathering patrons and members, but J-Dog has been with me since nearly the beginning, and I do want to thank him for that. And if you'd like to get your name shouted alongside J-Dog's, you can join the corresponding tier on either YouTube or Patreon, or if you just want your name to be on a scrolling list at the end of each video, like a couple of my other patrons and members do, that is also an option. Guys, until next time, I just want to say, be good to yourselves, be good to others. I'm Mr. Sean, this is Chimera Miniatures, and I sincerely hope that you find the butthole cut of your favorite movie, and that you alpha great day, and an even beta tomorrow. Bye-bye!